Hi, I'm Jimmy. In this video, I'm going to walk through my top 5 dividend stocks from the communication services sector. This video is part of our Passive Income from Dividend series, where our goal is to find the top dividend stocks from each of the 11 GIG sectors that can give us the passive income that gets us closer to our personal goal of financial independence. There's a link to all the other sector videos we've completed so far in the description below. Okay, so to make this top dividend stocks list, we've created a few basic rules for us to follow. First, they must have a current dividend yield of at least 2%. Then, they need to have a decent dividend coverage ratio, which means that they need to have the profits to cover their dividends. And then, ideally, they should be able to grow their dividend in the next few years. Now, if you happen to know of any great dividend stocks from the communication services sector, please let us know in the comments below. I'm curious to see what everybody comes up with. Okay, so let's jump into our first dividend stock. First up, we have Omnicom, ticker symbol OMC. Omnicom is a global advertising and marketing company. Now, Omnicom has a dividend yield of a bit over 3%. And when we look at their dividend per share history, well, we can see that they've been steadily growing their dividends since 2012. We can also see that analysts are expecting for that dividend to continue to grow. Analyst estimates are the green bars. They're continued for that to grow in 2019 and 2020, and I wouldn't be surprised personally if they continue to grow beyond that. Okay, so that one looks good. Next up, we have WPP from the London Exchange, ticker symbol WPP. Now, what they do is they do advertising, media investment management, public relations, and a lot more. They have a dividend yield of about 5.5%. Now, their dividend history is a bit more interesting. This is a chart of their dividends going back the past few years. And we can see the dividend growth leveled off in about 2018. And analysts seem to be expecting for that dividend to stay at about that level. Now, when we add profits to this chart, well, we can see that in 2018, profits dropped. And that was because advertising spending dropped for the firm in general. So they lost some big clients and profits dropped. And therefore, they decided to keep their current dividend level for at least the next couple of years. Now, I would expect for them to be able to push their dividend growth forward again if they're able to turn around their underlying business and ultimately push their earnings per share higher. If that were to happen, well, I wouldn't be surprised to see dividend growth to start moving higher again. Now, this company could make sense in a deeper dive in one of our standalone videos. If you'd be interested in seeing that, please put that in the description below, because this company and the next company, which is also trading the London Exchange, called ITV, ticker symbol ITV. Now, both of these companies have ADRs that trade in the United States. So if we want to pick them up on one of the American exchanges, we can do that as well. ITV has a dividend yield of a bit over 5%. And when we switch to the dividend history, well, we can see a very similar story. The same holds true when we add earnings per share to this chart. Profits dropped in about the same time period. And as that happened, they leveled off their dividends per share. Now, the reason that these are on here is I wanted to include some European stocks, but frankly, I found I had trouble coming across companies that didn't struggle a lot like these companies did. Now, I considered putting a company like Vodafone up there, which I've researched in the past, and I actually like the core business, but they lost money back in 2016 and 2017, which made me hesitate a bit more than these two companies. So if you know any companies in any of the European markets, please let me know in the comments below, because I found it difficult to find great companies. I think both of these companies have pulled back recently, and I think that there's a chance that they could climb higher over the next couple of years and ultimately start growing their dividend again. Okay, up next, we head back to the US to a company that I'm sure many of us expected to be on this list. That's AT&T, ticker symbol T. AT&T has a dividend yield of more than 5%. And when we look at their dividend history, well, we can see that their dividend history has steadily grown, and AT&T is known as being one of those reliable dividend payers. Now, I actually did a video specifically on AT&T after one of the big hedge funds came out and took a position in AT&T, sent a letter to management, released the letter to the public, and giving the AT&T's management a bunch of ideas as to what they could do to help spur their business along and ultimately move their stock price higher. I'll leave a link in the description below if you're interested in that video. Now, on the negative side, AT&T is actually loaded with debt, and they have been for many years, just like a lot of companies in this industry. But from the dividend perspective, I expect for AT&T's dividend to remain mostly reliable over the next few years. When we add profits per share to this, well, we can see that they've been scaling up profits which could ultimately provide AT&T's dividend investors with some capital gains to go alongside the dividends that they're collecting. So I think AT&T remains a solid dividend play. Okay, next up we have AT&T's close competitor, Verizon Communications, ticker symbol VZ. Verizon has a dividend yield of about 4% right now. And when we look at their dividend history, well, much like AT&T, we could see that Verizon's continue to climb their dividend in a somewhat reliable manner, despite the fact that Verizon has a lower dividend yield. And when we add profits per share to this mix, well, once again, Verizon looks like it's doing a good job of covering their own dividend, and I would expect for the dividend to remain mostly stable over the coming years. Now, as this whole industry gets closer to the next generation of wireless technology in 5G, I think these companies, and probably a few others as well, could do quite well as 5G continues to come online. I would expect many companies to prosper from that happening. Now, I actually made a video of some of my favorite 5G companies in 2020, so if you're curious, that could be a good next video to watch. There's a link right here, and there's a link in the description below. And I want to thank you for sticking with me all the way to the end of the video. I really appreciate it. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.